Welcome back to part 9 of the Texturing in Substance Painter, a Monster series. So in this part, what we're going to be doing is adding emission, which is essentially like a glow to the texture. We're getting pretty detailed, I think. Right now, this is a 4K texture. At least that's what I have it set to. You can always reduce it, so I can like set it to 2K, and it'll like re-render everything. And this is non-destructive, which is nice. So if you find that your model is not performing very well, you can adjust that here. But we'll stay in 4K for this tutorial. All right, so the first thing we're going to do to add emission is go to the texture set settings. Now, I did have a video just on this topic, but I'm actually going to show refining the result so we actually get like a good looking result. And to view texture set settings, if it's been closed, window, views, texture set settings. So you just click on channels, the plus icon, and then go to emissive. And this will allow you to modify your layers to add emission. So usually there's 5 things: color, metallic, rough, normal, height, and then it just added a 6th. And there's more than just this as well. Like there's opacity, there's a few other things. But for this tutorial, we're just going to be focusing on emissive. So let's go click on the folder. Let's add a new fill layer. Actually, we have to drag it in here. All right, so let's get this dragged in here. So this is going to be on top of everything. It's going to be emissive. So we'll turn off everything but color and emission. For the emissive color, let's do red. And then for the actual base color, we want to do orange. And then we will double click to change the name. Name it emissive. Right click on it, add a black mask. And now what we want to do is, just like before, we want to customize our brush. So let's bring over our good old friend, the shelf. Hold on, it's saving. I saved it and then, all right, didn't want to let me drag it over. So if your shelf is closed, window, views, shelf, we're going to go down to brushes. So we're going to be painting in the mask, which will reveal the emissive layer. And that should give us a kind of cool effect. So we want something that kind of looks like lava to some degree. Some of these textures are kind of crazy. We don't want anything too over the top. So let's see what looks good. Maybe something like this. We could try this. Or even this. Let's try this one. So this is Kyle's paint. It's like bugging out. All right, Kyle's paint something. It's not Kyle's paint, paint box, Cezanne. If you don't have this, you can just use like a dirt. Actually, let's just use dirt. Let's keep it simple. Let's assume you don't have it, because like I've done tutorials before. Like I've been following along with tutorials, and like some stupid thing is missing. Let's just use dirt 1. I'm sure you have dirt 1. All right. Okay, so let's actually come over to the tablet here. We're gonna be adding in these details. So first, let's see what our brush looks like. All right, so that's a little crazy. Let's reduce the size. Let's add the pressure sensitivity for size. Let's kind of like paint in a little bit. All right, maybe there's too much scattering on this. So under brush settings, there's this thing, position jitter. So if this can be a good thing to have, but sometimes it's annoying. So we're gonna just get rid of it. And then of course there's other things like angle jitter. If you don't have angle jitter on this brush, it seems to kind of give you a weird result that looks too consistent. So let's try this for now. Let's just kind of paint in some of this. And another thing I want to do is let's actually add height. So we're going to click on the emissive layer, the fill layer, click on height. Let's do negative 0.1. We can try positive 0.1 too. Let's see. So right now it just looks like it's a really bright color, like a bright base color. It is actually painting on the emissive layer, so you can go up to the material. I think it says material here, click on emissive. This is what it's adding. So to view this result, this will only be like for rendering. This isn't the actual output. The actual output will be what we just looked at. So let's show that really quick just so you understand what you're actually doing by painting emissive. So let's go to the emissive layer. So when we paint emissive, we're just painting a color, which is like basically light information, onto the UV. So when we do that, we're not telling it how intense to make the light. So when you actually take this emissive export and put it into Unreal Engine or Unity, you have to then increase or decrease the intensity to get the effect you want. So when we're actually viewing emission in Substance Painter, so let's go back to the material. To view the emission, you have to go to Display Settings, Window, Views, Display Settings, and it's closed. Activate Post Effects, go down to Glare, activate Glare, and then you have to go to Shader Settings, and then increase emissive intensity. So now you can see the effect of the emission. However, the default setting, let's go back to Display Settings, is this Filter Cross Screen Spectral. It probably will be a bloom, and you can change this in Game Engine, but it'll probably more than likely default to like a type of bloom light. So bloom is kind of safe to look at in terms of what it will likely appear to look like in your game engine, assuming it's going into a game engine. But wherever it's being rendered, very likely it will have some kind of bloom by default, and then you can customize that for sure, but you have to get into the weeds with materials with Unity and Unreal. So we're just going to paint this in, but you can see now that we've turned on the emissive, you can see like the effect of it. So it kind of looks like lava now. So that's why we did this textured brush, and we're going to refine this as well. This is just to like get it started. Because right now, actually one thing I don't like is how the flow is 100%. It's kind of crazy. Let's do like 40. And we'll turn it to grayscale, or we'll switch it to black. So now we're taking away. So we'll start to take away the mask. Let's try to blend it a little bit better because it's too intense right now. You can get a nice fade in there on certain parts that look bad. So just fade it in there. You hit up the edges, blend it in better. So it'll be like a balancing act to get it to look right. Then we can switch it back. And you can also blend in by adding. One thing that's kind of crazy though, I guess it is adding just like 40%. This is just kind of like what it looks like. We can refine it as we go though, so it's not the worst thing. And we want to fill in all the parts that are like dipped in, where there's like crevices. So now you kind of get this like lava look pretty quickly too, like just by adding a fill with orange and then red emission. So we'll just go through and add this. And you can paint on this part because we're painting in the folder, so it won't show up. Emission's a pretty strong effect though, so even though it's at 40% flow, which for normal painting would probably be fine, it is kind of crazy. And because it is at 40%, you can add in more or less orange. So like if I paint over a section again, it'll start to add in these like little orange sections. So now we can get more variety in the lava effect. And we're gonna add kind of like an outline to make it, to like break it up as well, like harder edges. This is just to get us started. You can reduce the brush size with the brackets as you're going to add little fine details into the lava. Also note that like in the shadow, the color won't really show as much. It's more so in the light. And you can do multiple colors of emission. You have to like layer it. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, this was like kind of the idea I had, like making it this like lava thing. And we'll fade all this better. This is just to get it in there. We'll refine the edges for sure. And we can also add more cracks in the future. So like even after this video, there's still going to be a few more to like refine it and to balance all the different elements of the texture. Because like the shell is definitely not finished. I just wanted to get the emission in so that when we start adding cracks and stuff, it's in relation to how the emissive is. So that there's like little emissive cracks, stuff like that. It'll look kind of cool. Alright, so this is the top. Kind of already looks like lava, which is nice. So that's kind of what we were going for. And parts that are larger, you should probably paint it in more so there's more orange. You can download this model if you haven't already. It should be in the description. If not, it's in the first 4 videos. It's in like a pinned comment and in the description. But it should be in the description to download this model. You do not have permission to sell this model or use it commercially, but you can use it for practicing. That's essentially because I made it, so I have the legal rights to it. Though I don't think I'm going to use this commercially. I just don't want anyone taking this and like trying to like sell it or something stupid. Alright, and then I want to get some orange parts in here. Not all over it, just like in certain sections. And I think that's good to start, and now we can refine the edges. So what I would like to do is change that back, and let's change the flow to like 25, and then let's just create like a better transition between these. One thing I might do, I might reduce, so right now I'm bumping up. I think that, let's see, it looks better, because if we're bumping up, it appears that it's like flowing, and if we bump in, kind of looks like it's subtracting. Maybe the bump up looks better. I think it does. Yeah, I think bumping it up looks a little bit better. So we'll just make this a nice even 0.5, or should I say odd? All right, let's blend this bad boy in. So let's just start with the edges. So right now I'm just painting, like masking it, you know, switch from white to black. So now we're painting in, reduce the flow. So now that when we paint on it, we're gradually wearing it down. And we can create smoother transitions. So here's the difference, right? This versus this. So it's okay to overpaint in this section because then we can take it in. You just want to try to stay in the cracks though that we sculpted earlier. Then you can make the brush bigger and do stuff like this. And one thing that I do want to do is add little details that break up the lava shapes, but I'll go through that in a second pass. We'll just focus on refining this part up here so it doesn't look super, you know, like someone just painted it quickly. You want it to look like it actually transitions into something, in this case. Like it fades out, you know? Unless it was like perfectly sharp. And you wanted that effect on purpose, but in this case we don't. So we want to fade it out. just gonna save it. We could probably increase this to 35 so it takes it away a little bit faster. So we don't have to go over it as many times. That's better. I just don't want these like hard edges near where it's supposed to fade out because it just looks weird. Unless there was like a sharp hard edge for it to end in, like physically, but that's not the case. All right, let's do the bottom. One thing you can do is you can just hold down and just kind of scribble it in. That seems to be working better than tapping it multiple times. So you can just kind of like scribble on like a line, like on an edge, to decrease it, and like kind of reshape it a little bit. All right, and then what I want to do is invert this back to white because some of these parts should have lava, like this in here. And then we can change it back and blend this in. We're going to refine this more in the next video as well. You can kind of see here we can get like a nice edge if we paint with some precision. I think this needs inverted here. A little bit right there. Okay, so here is the result we have so far. Now we still need to refine some of these edges. And I think that's something we should do in the next video. Because we went over adding the emission, the difference of displaying it versus actually exporting, what you actually get when you export it. And I think that took some explaining to do. Before we could just dive in, but now that we have the emissive layer added, it's just an issue of refining it because it still looks kind of rough, but we're starting to blend it into the material of the actual model that we painted, and it's starting to look decent. It still has some refinement, but the overall effect of like the lava is there. And I think what we'll do is we'll do like a second emissive material on the gel guy that'll be a different color, maybe like green and yellow, where it emits like light yellowish green to add some more like visual interest. Maybe like a purple one. Maybe purple would look better like on the inside sockets of the eyes and parts of the mouth for like some more visual interest. And then I'd like to add little rocks around the shell, like little shell pieces in the texture. So it creates this kind of like rocky look on the gel guy. So it looks like there's like parts of shell and rock on him. And then there's like little refinement I want to do. But the next video is going to be refining the emissive and getting it looking nicer, and maybe adding little sections of, like for example, if I erase, like let's get like a heavy brush. If I erase parts of this, we can get little like rocks to appear essentially. So something like this, maybe. I'll experiment a bit, but even that kind of like breaks up the lava a bit. Like little things like that could go a long way. Go a long way in breaking up the shapes and adding some interesting details. But yeah, that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to be doing a ton of tutorials like this. This is just the first. So like it's not only going to be this egg creature. I'm going to do like foliage. I'm going to do like hair tutorials. I'm going to get into doing like glass and stuff like that and exporting that because that's pretty tricky. I also want to do some characters, some props. So we'll do a whole bunch of different things as well as modeling tutorials. But definitely like and subscribe, drop a comment, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in part 10.